to a cold start while you're outside. I'm locking you out. Oh no, the lock's broken anyway.
You want me to start from here?
You salute the flag? Right, that's the thumbnail. You saluting the flag. Alright, sit down. Who are we? Who are we? What's the podcast name?
Who are we?
Yeah, who are we?
Did we give ourselves a name?
Yeah, we've used Alfie and Paolo and Alvaro, but who are we together? 一起我们是
老公老婆
What's the podcast called?
Times of Being Wild. Woo!
That's not even right.
What is it?
Welcome to the second episode of the Days of Being Wild project.
Who do you
I'm Alfie,
Times, days.
and with me is Alvaro,
What do you have to complain about everything?
/ Paolo,
Fuck you.
my Spaniard friend,
Tony.
who is an expert on the boring parts of Chinese history. This is the second episode of our recap of everything that has happened so far in the Far East.
Which are a lot of things, by the way. And by Far East, we just mean China.
I think they know it's a lot of things. Yeah, everything that's happened in China up until today. We did 3,000 years of history in the last one. Today, we're going to do 1,900. No, more than 1,000. 2,100. We're starting...
2,100? No.
We're starting in Qin Shihuang.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah.
Come on, keep up.
I was just... Okay, I'm doing my maths. Okay, just... You look too professional with the notes, huh?
Yeah, this is my notes. There's definitely not like 2 pages of absolute tosh.
I can count more than 2.
Have you ever heard anyone use the word tosh?
Tosh? No, what does it mean?
Tosh is rubbish. It's absolute...
But why you never use it until now?
Because it's just a weird English phrase. They don't use it very often. Absolute tosh.
It's not even English, it's British.
All right, so last episode we left off with the rise of Qin Shihuang, who luckily we already discussed roughly. I mean, it's very complicated how he came to power. Qin Shihuang is...
That's your part. I know who is it, but it's your turn to speak.
Qin Shihuang is...
You're bossing me around too much today, okay? Qin Shihuang is the first unifier of...
The Grand Unifier. The big man.
The great unifier of China.
Who comes
China. Comes from the Qin state of the warring state.
Comes from the Qin state of the warring state. And he is why we call it China. In case you didn't know, Qin Shihuang is the big man. He unified China first. He formed the Qin, Qin dynasty, not to be confused with the Qing dynasty, as I did for maybe 2 years.
Understandable.
He came to power around 220 BC, and he was only in charge for about 20 years. And during that time, he basically reformed the whole country. China has gone through a lot of changes in the past, but Qin Shihuang, the Grand Unifier, the big man, we can credit him with a lot. We credit him with...
many things.
He gets credited for building the whole Great Wall of China, which...
Did it begin in the Qin dynasty already?
No, it began before. And a lot of the Great Wall of China was built in the Ming dynasty, but by far he tops the list as the person who killed the most people building the Great Wall of China.
Yes, big success.
Qin Shihuang, according to the Chinese internet, big ENTJ personality. He's an extrovert.
ENTJ?
ENTJ.
J? ENTJ?
Yeah. INTJ is the school shooter Hitler one. ENTJ, just one letter off. He's an extroverted Hitler.
What about ENFP?
ENFP is that's like the entertainer or something, isn't it?
Because that's mine. I just know that.
Well, say you're half Qin Shihuang.
Is that good?
I think so.
I'm gonna take it as something good. What about
well,
you?
Yeah, so this is it. Qin Shihuang is a controversial character.
No. Now you have to tell me what is your...
I'm pretty similar. I think I'm ENFP or
ENFP?
My one said the entertainer. It might be ENTJ. I might be the same as Qin Shihuang.
The entertainer as in a reference to Billy Joel or just...
Not reference to Billy Joel. The archetype of the entertainer. You know, there's the entertainer, the leader, the school shooter, the Qin Shihuang.
Do you think if you go around on Chinese websites, instead of trying to say you're ENFP,
I think this was AI generated, because I was having a laugh. I was researching Qin Shihuang. I've had a laugh with this one, where this isn't a serious one. And I looked up Qin Shihuang Myers-Briggs personality test, and the first result was Qin Shihuang ENTJ personality.
But I think if you go around Chinese dating sites, because here if you're ENFP, you're pretty successful. I don't understand why, to be honest. But it's just like something that is many people look for.
I think
if you say you're half Qin Shihuang, I think that's going to be even more successful.
Yeah, I think being they call it Yiren and Iren, extroverted and introverted. So Qin Shihuang should Yiren, but yeah, I think there's too many Iren around. So being an Yiren makes you stand out from the crowd, literally, because if you're an Yiren, you might start a small state and become king at the age of 13. Did you know he was 13 when he first became the king of the state of Qin?
Wait, no.
Yeah.
Why?
He wasn't the unifier at that point. He was just...
Yeah, I know. Just a King Cheng.
Yeah. So he was born in a market street, which is what I read. And he wasn't born to a massive family. But over time, I don't know, through the military, presumably, he became the king of the state of Qin. And then, as we discussed last time, basically played the total war game for about 30 years. I think he became the emperor in his 40s. And yeah, I think the most common comparison you see in Western literature, which I don't know if it's accurate, you may disagree, they compare him to one of the early Roman emperors.
I can agree.
I think it's not a bad comparison. From a European perspective, the Romans were the guys who killed a lot of people, but also built up a hegemonic culture. He's credited with expanding, I don't know if standardizing is the right word, but he expanded the Chinese language and standardized the written system. I think the main weapon he actually used when unifying the state was his bureaucratic sensibilities. I mean, the people around him were very smart. He was very keen on weights and measures. He made sure that he standardized the system of weights and measures in China and the system of time. His legacy is complicated, like I said. I mean, after him, many people kind of look to him as the unifier, the greatest emperor, the strongest emperor. But
well, yeah, because he's the first. I mean, it doesn't.
But was he the first? Because
the first with a unified China, yes.
Yeah, but so this is the thing. Famously, when he came to power, what's the guy's name? Borges in English. Borges. He credits Qin Shihuang as being the first guy to recognize the power of history. It's quoted on another shit podcast we won't mention, but he said Qin Shihuang came to power and the first thing he did was make sure everyone burns the history books. He is one of the first book burners. When he came to power, he was famous for doing massive scholarly purges. So recognizing other emperors before him was a bit taboo, and he made sure that the history books recognized him as the first.
But you also know, like, most of those books, to what ideology or what philosophy they belong to.
Exactly. So most of the books before him were, I mean, most of the books before him weren't, well, I don't know, would we say they're reliable? Like secondhand sources from 200 BC generally fawn over someone and get rid of the reigns of people before them. So maybe he's not so unique in the sense that he tried to erase the history of everything that came before him. But he's definitely unique in the sense of the scale of terror that the man emitted. I mean, if you ever see a portrait of Qin Shihuang, big eyebrows, big frown, sometimes throwing fireballs at people having Thanksgiving dinner.
Do we have anything against it? I say no.
Yeah. This is, if you ever see the memes that say unlimited genocide on the first world and have a Chinese-looking man throwing fireballs, that's the man Qin Shihuang. Other notable part of his reign, the main thing we're here to talk about is mercury. He is famous for imbibing mercury as a form of medicine. Did you know he got this practice from his dad?
Wait, I thought he was the first one that was trying to do this kind of shit.
So according to some of the scholarship, his dad was the one who impressed upon him the importance of taking mercury as a life-prolonging thing.
And who gave the idea to his dad?
I don't know. That's the other thing. I think because he's the first recorded figure to, be so obviously influenced by his intake of mercury, we're not sure. I think it's likely that someone said his dad was taking it, that's why he took it, but that's a lie and he was actually the first one, or it was a practice that someone had come across and then someone told his dad and then it told him. I don't know if it was widely practiced, otherwise we'd probably know more about it.
I think it was more practiced also in other dynasties by other emperors.
After him though. No?
Yeah. But I think he's the most creative one for doing that.
Anyway, did you know that it was actually discovered as a side effect of extracting cinnabar in Shanxi?
Yes.
You didn't know that. Come on.
Cinnabar?
Yeah.
Cinnabar is mercury sulfide.
Okay. But did you know it was in Shanxi?
I didn't know it was in Shanxi, but it makes sense because his tomb is in Shanxi.
Yeah. They did some kind of... Well, I don't know exactly how it worked, but they found the ancient excavation site. It's going to be in the sources in the notes. They found the ancient excavation site that they were extracting this cinnabar from. And
okay, so fun story. I just want to make a short insert, but cinnabar is mercury sulfide.
Yeah.
And it's a thing that is some compound, really bright red compound that they mix with some silkworm and some wax and some other materials to make it into kind of red paste. And that red paste is the one that they used back then in the imperial times to stamp the seals. Now, this is a tradition that is still carried out to Chinese bureaucracy nowadays. And every time you want to sign an official document, you just get a red stamp right in the middle to just certify that everything is in order. If you don't get that red stamp...
If you don't get the stamp, you're fucked.
Exactly.
From personal experience.
Exactly. It doesn't matter how many signatures you get. It doesn't matter how everything in order is. No, if you don't get the stamp, that document is completely useless.
It's worthless, basically.
So that compound, because of that, everyone that has been working with stamping seals, nowadays even, using that compound, they have to check every now and then for mercury intoxication.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
You have to store the whole seal in a very well ventilated place.
Okay.
Because even if it's a small amount, mercury just builds up in your body.
Yeah.
Even if it's a small amount, you work in a place for 10 years, by 10 years, suddenly you have Alzheimer's.
Well, you know about the Victorian hatters, famously.
No.
I think that, to us, that's the most famous case of mercury poisoning. So when you would make a top hat in Victorian times, you would join the parts of it with mercury and you would do the rim with mercury. And all these Victorian top hat manufacturers, the top hats, the very tall ones, like Jacob Rees-Mogg wears. Don't know if his still has mercury in it. But yeah, they were working with their bare hands. So that is where the phrase mad as a hatter comes from. It's a myth. I don't know if it's real or not.
Makes sense.
But it definitely makes sense. That
makes sense. And by then, they didn't know that they could do something like chelation. Now you do it. It's still dangerous, but
yeah.
You can recover from it.
But so the most famous thing about Qin Shihuang, I think, in popular culture, is his consumption of mercury, which brings me to an amazing undergraduate paper I have found. When I found this, I was like, this is getting included. This is from the British Columbia Toxicology News Monthly Bulletin, 2019, January the 1st. Mercury poisoning Emperor Qin Shihuang and his terracotta army. This is the best piece of historiography I've ever seen. It's presumably written by an undergraduate student at the School of Population and Public Health in the University of British Columbia. There's a lot written about Qin Shihuang. Qin Shihuang was the founder of the Qin dynasty and the first emperor of unified China, as we just told you. Throughout his adulthood, Qin Shihuang sought immortality and sent explorers to find the secret of immortality from different corners of the world. It is documented that he continuously consumed mercury pills for immortality. He ran a tyrannical government with strict discipline. Controversial. We don't endorse.
Who are we to judge? You know?
Which intensified as he aged. He used to scrutinize every petty detail and occasionally suffered from overworking himself. He's a workaholic. This is
That's not very ENFP, actually.
This isn't very ENFP, no. This is great because it's just here is a man who killed many thousands of people, and he lived in 200 BC, and we're doing a toxicology report on him. So it compiles all the evidence from ancient texts. The great historian Sima Tian, who we'll be getting onto in a little bit, from the Sima family, he says that in his tomb, he has a stockpile of treasures in an imitation of the universe. And, this is crazy, in his tomb, mercury rivers and oceans and gems on the ceiling representing stars. Sima Tian does not mention the place of his tomb, but we know where it is now. It's in Shanxi. When his underground mausoleum was discovered in 1974, archaeologists found extremely high concentrations of mercury, 100 times the naturally occurring rate, which confirms that there are abnormally high concentrations of mercury in his mausoleum. So basically, the guy is allegedly buried in mercury. They haven't opened the tomb, and they don't actually know. But here we go. What is mercury?
Mercury is a metal that is liquid at room temperature. The only metal that is liquid at room temperature. Nowadays, it's used for many different industrial processes, many different industrial applications. We're not gonna go over there, but it's really toxic. It's a heavy metal. It's similar to lead in the sense that if you absorb it into your body,
it won't go away.
It won't go. It's very difficult to get it away, but very small concentrations of it, it can just directly kill you. I read a story. The funny thing about mercury is that it can easily bind to organic compounds. That is a property that for lead is not so intense, so important. Let's say lead has some similar properties, but it's still not as dangerous as mercury by far. And there was I forgot the name of this researcher. I will just include a picture around here. But she was working with metal organic compounds of mercury. And one of these compounds is as liquid like water, like completely no color, similar density, similar boiling point and everything. And she was working with this compound. And one single drop fell on her finger. She died 1 week later.
Wow.
Because this compound can just get through the skin, get through the hemo-brain barrier really easily. So it just goes directly to your brain and just shuts you off. So yeah, I don't think it's the best thing if you want to be immortal.
Symptoms of chronic low-dose mercury toxicity. From the I can't go over the Toxicology News Monthly Bulletin. We're going to be reading a paper from this every single week. Mercurial tremor, a tremor that is abolished during sleep. Neurasthenia, fatigue, depression, headaches, hypersensitivity to stimuli, psychosomatic complaints, weakness and loss of concentration. Erethism, blushing, shyness of the afflicted, anxiety, emotional liability, irritability, insomnia. Irritability, this guy killed 12 princes and 10 princesses in the kingdom. And mixed sensory motor neuropathy, ataxia, concentric constriction of visual fields, brackets, tunnel vision, and anosmia. So the evidence for this, apart from personal cases of, personal reports of Qin Shihuang taking mercury pills during his life, there's a special table of evidence that you use in toxicology reporting. It says type of evidence and then it says strength. And if the strength has a lot of pluses next to it, that means it's strong evidence. Documentation of high exposure, plus. Environmental laboratory findings, the tomb, plus. Psychological and clinical findings. Did he see a psychiatrist? No. Well, just 1 plus for this one. His son's behavioral profile, so written by his son, plus. Suspicious circumstances. It's never explained what that is in this paper, plus. And human laboratory findings, question mark, plus. Because he's saying that they're going to exhume his body and examine it, which I don't think is true. I don't think there are any plans to exhume his body.
So after, with all of those symptoms, he was still classified as a ENTJ.
Yeah. So we have here, if he was not exposed to mercury, the course of history could have been changed for the better or worse. Can't see how it could have been much worse. At least we know with a high degree of certainty that mercury's effects that led to his premature death terminated his extraordinary contribution to human development. On the dark side of it, so many scholars would have been saved if he was not so obsessive, paranoid, and picky. And then we have a comparison of Qin Shihuang to Friedrich Nietzsche's Übermensch, Superman. He definitely was an Übermensch in his life. His life ended shortly after he started sending naval expeditions into the South China Sea, allegedly to find sea monsters that were being reported to him.
Übermensch means alpha male for the Gen Z.
For the Gen Z people
that are watching us.
Rizzed up alpha male.
Yeah. 6'7", something like that. I don't know what you're saying.
No,
nowadays.
it's nothing to do with 6'7". That's more of a Keir Starmer type saying now.
Second reference to Keir Starmer in 2 days, I think
someone who consolidates all the power in the kingdom, builds up his capital, kills off any rival successors, starts taking copious amounts of mercury to extend his life, and killing everyone around him, being a bit of a menace. What happens when a guy like that dies?
Possibly, I would say, I know a story about it, I'm going to share it later, but I would say, knowing how is China, that one of his sons take over, and people are not exactly sad about his death, maybe.
So what happened is his son did take over, and then his son was overthrown, and then there was, quote, a brief period of instability.
I don't see why it would be unstable. Yes, please tell me.
I don't know, the guy dies, his son takes over, people don't like his son.
Well,
various rebellions, upstarts, pretenders show up, and then the Han Dynasty is the strongest one of those and takes over. But you had something you wanted to say about one of Qin Shihuang's advisors.
Yeah, because Qin Shihuang was obviously a pretty powerful guy. I don't know why. I think he was the kind of guy that liked to have everything under control for some reason. Some of the things that you read might have given me that hint. But on the last episode, we also started commenting at the end of the whole thing, the figure of Li Si, which was his political advisor. And we also mentioned that during the Qing dynasty, the state philosophy was legalism, which, as we also said, it focuses around the idea of if you don't have strong laws and strong punishments, people are going to fuck up really fast and really bad. So you have to enforce them through force, basically, given the redundancy. And Li Si was the guy that was orchestrating most of his political decisions in one way or another.
Yeah.
The creator of legalism was Han Feizi, another philosopher that we also discussed last time. And at one point, Li Si convinced Qin Shihuang to bring Han Fei to the court of the Qin kingdom, to just have him know where he is, because they knew this guy was really smart and he could pose some kind of threat against the stability of the kingdom. So when Li Si convinced Qin Shihuang to bring Han Fei to the core of the kingdom, he was so jealous that he plotted against him to make him be incarcerated. And after that, he convinced Han Fei to kill himself. Li Si convinced the creator of the state philosophy to kill himself.
Yeah, Paul the Apostle convinces Jesus to kill himself.
Exactly. It's like, dude, have you checked how things are going out there? I think you better just off yourself. He did it.
Yeah.
So, not the first thing that is going to happen. I also spoke last time how Li Si convinced Qin Shihuang to not expel the foreigners from other states of the kingdom of Qin, because the girls from the Zhao kingdom were really hot.
Well, now that we know he was a teenager, this is probably a pretty convincing argument.
No, I mean, that's the good way. You're winning a teenager that is...
20s. We don't know exactly when.
20s still, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
His hormones are probably affected by an overdose of mercury.
Not yet. Mercury is later on. It's supposed to extend your life when you go into middle age.
Well, but do we know when he started taking it or something?
Of course we don't know exactly when, but we know it was supposed to extend your life.
I'm going to assume that he started taking it when he was 20 or something.
I'm gonna say that when you're trying to unite China, you're not taking mercury. Once you've taken over, you start to take mercury.
That's also a valid point. But
psychologically, it's something to extend your life. It's what's happened when you're worried about living forever. You only start worrying about dying when you hit middle age.
Yeah, but I don't know. He wanted to unify the whole China. I think that is also something that you want to live for, you know?
He was quite young when he finished, though. 40s, 50s is not that bad.
whole thing. Okay, he was horny as fuck. Okay, that's the whole point.
It didn't say aphrodisiac in my toxicology report.
We should check about it. Okay.
Okay. We'll check after the show. I'm gonna have a little read now.
See how much cinnamon he took. Just to be sure, you know.
Does mercury, you know?
I don't think mercury is good for your libido, to be honest.
I was gonna say it's probably not a good aphrodisiac.
Not the best thing, no. I mean, back then, nowadays we have microplastics in our balls. Back then they had mercury.
Yes.
You know what you want.
Yeah.
Inside of you. So the whole thing is that after Qin Shihuang died, there was obviously, as you said, tumult.
Yeah.
Rebellions. No one knows what to do.
Yeah.
By then, Qin Shihuang had 2 sons, and obviously the heir to the throne should be the older son.
Yeah.
The heir to the throne ended up being the youngest.
Yeah.
Why? Because Li Si convinced the other one to kill himself.
Wow.
And he did this by plotting with the favorite eunuch of Qin Shihuang, by name Chao. He plotted to incarcerate the eldest son of Qin Shihuang and then again convince him to kill himself. Yeah. So the younger son could take over because Li Si had a tighter relationship with him. But then, when the heir took the throne, the eunuch betrayed Li Si again. And he was incarcerated, and then he was tortured for a long time. And then he was executed by a waist chop, which was one of the preferred ways to execute people in ancient China. A waist chop is just essentially like, they split you in half on your waist. Doesn't sound really the most humane way to do things anyway. And then they exterminated his whole family to the 3rd degree.
Wow.
So no more Li Si, no more. That was the end of his.
A big blow for legalism.
Yeah.
A big blow for legalism.
Yeah, but I just think it's really funny to see how you're following legalism and then you convince the leader of your philosophy to just kill himself on the spot. Yeah. Like that is like just your own ideas coming back to bite you in the ass. I like it. I cannot say the opposite. So cool. Then the Han Dynasty comes.
How long does the Han Dynasty last, do you know?
Han Dynasty, how long did it last?
About 400 years.
400 years.
Or 300 to 400.
Okay, so what happened in the Han Dynasty? Tell me.
Fuck all.
What didn't happen?
It's kind of the origin of the Han people, right? Yeah. Like it's the same character that we use for the Han ethnic group. It is relatively peaceful. It's a time of mostly agricultural progress, and I think it's kind of underestimated. Like there's this kind of refinement of the process of inheritance and medicine in particular. I think it's around then that they realized that mercury might not be the best solution. We're not talking about advanced medicine here. We're just talking about beginning, advances in traditional Chinese medicine. The other stuff you would expect to see around 0 BC, whatever's going on in the Middle East doesn't matter. In 190 AD, we're skipping forward until the end of the Han Dynasty. So over time, the Han Dynasty kind of falls into decline. There's a great intro. Well, we were talking about the Three Kingdoms now. The Three Kingdoms has a 1994 TV adaptation, and they summarize the whole of the Han Dynasty in about 5 minutes, where the emperor on the throne starts getting younger and younger. So there's like a 13-year-old boy on the throne, and then he dies. He gets like chopped up in like like a shadow, like cha-cha-cha kind of thing. And then there's like an 11-year-old, and then there's like a 3-year-old on the throne. Then there's these eunuch guys, the guys with their balls chopped off, just doing this in the background. By the end of the Han Dynasty, there is a baby on the throne, and they call them the 9 standards. So there's actually 9 eunuchs and 3 officials. And they form this clique, and they take complete control of the kingdom, and they're massively corrupt.
It's also worth mentioning that the Han Dynasty we also talked before about how every dynasty has their own official ideology, official philosophy. Yeah. For Qing Dynasty, the official ideology was legalism. Yeah. Then at the beginning of the Han Dynasty, they also adopt legalism. They continue with the whole tradition, but really early on, they decide like Confucianism is the way to go.
Yeah.
And so from then on, they try to belittle the Qin dynasty as much as they can. Because for them, they were not following the true way of educating the social, the masses, and to lead the country as a whole. And also during this dynasty, we find like many of the most renamed Chinese inventions. For example, we have the adjustable branch. We have the first seismograph, paper, music theory, and the compass.
No, compass is Three Kingdoms.
Compass is okay. Three Kindoms is the decay of the Han Dynasty. I'm gonna take it.
No, I'm not accepting that.
Okay.
Compass, we're calling it firmly in the Three Kingdoms.
Okay, compass is the Three Kingdoms.
It's very important.
And then also they're based on having the restoration of the Zhou values, which by then they were like seeing like already the peak of the Chinese essence, the Chinese ideology, even if it wasn't like a unified China even by then. But it's still, I guess people like to look at the past with different eyes.
Well, it's kind of important that Zhou makes a comeback, because you've got all these, I don't know, you could call them alleged successors. You've got people with the surname Zhou running around who will later become important. Also important is over the Han Dynasty, various emperors rise and fall, and these families are very big. So there's also lots of people inheriting titles all over the country, which becomes very important in the Three Kingdoms. Any more on the Han?
On the Han,
skip to the good bit.
You're waiting for it. Come on, I'm not gonna.
This is the best bit.
I'm not gonna blue ball you anymore.
So we have a bad harvest, as we always do, and the eunuchs begin to split. The nine standards begin to split. They're all like kidnapping the emperor, making him accept like their positions. So we get.
Now is the time. I was waiting for it actually.
The Yellow Turban Rebellion. We're gonna drink every time some cool names come up. Big up the Yellow Turban.
Spanish tradition. I'm not gonna let you.
Sorry for that. It's necessary.
And it's Japanese beer.
So
shame on you. Shame on your cow. Shame on your family.
The Yellow Turban Rebellion. I think are the good guys. Every time there's a peasant rebellion, I just sympathize with them because like they've had a poor harvest.
And you don't want to sympathize with the peasants in Europe rebellions, actually.
I sympathize with the English peasants rebellion. I sympathize with
Do you sympathize with Clarkson?
Who? I don't know. Probably not. Jeremy Clarkson. Fuck that guy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean...
No, not farmer peasants. Like the poor people peasants.
We sympathize with peasants, not with farmers. Okay,
yeah, we don't sympathize with Clarkson. Fuck Clarkson's Farm. Anti-Clarkson's Farm podcast. So the Yellow Turban Rebellion, they've got a great slogan. I can't remember it. It's like, the ground is yellow, the sky is yellow, heaven is yellow. They love and they wear these yellow turbans. Of course they do. They take over the entire, well, they don't take over, but the movement spreads. It's like proto-Marxist is very, very, is a stretch, but I'm going to call it that.
Very, very proto, actually.
Well, I tell you what, there are pretty strong parallels between the Yellow Turban Rebellion and the spread of communism in 20th century China. Immediately, the entire like working class just falls onto this one banner, and you know the ruling class aren't very happy, as they aren't. They have to put down the rebellion. The chief eunuch gets the emperor at the time, who, at least according to the TV show, that's my only source on this, is like an actual like 20s emperor, but he holds no power, so he just isn't able to question any eunuchs. They have him designate power to local rulers to raise their own armies to try to stabilize the country. I mean, this is a double-edged sword. You're allowing the local lords to raise their own armies to suppress the rebellion, but now the entire country is filled with warlords. This lasts for a few years. That emperor dies, and there are two princes who claim the throne. The older one, who I think is like 6, sits on the throne, and the eunuchs are now squabbling even more. The country is completely disunited at this point. A series of powerful families who have presence in the court call down a warlord, Zhou something. The only thing that's important about this guy, he dies pretty quickly, is I'm also the one thing I want to talk about when we're talking about the Three Kingdoms. We're not even at the Three Kingdoms yet. This is the build up to the Three Kingdoms. The whole story is incredibly complex, but I'm going to simplify it as much as I can. This warlord is an important character. Not that I can remember his name, because he is very fat and he has a very big beard.
It doesn't narrow it down to anyone, actually. I mean,
no, he's a very grumpy-looking guy. He's from the northeast of the country, and the powerful families recruit him to come to the capital. Liaoning, I believe, is the capital at the time. I'm going to have to check that.
Liaoning?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So he shows up at the capital gates. He storms the capital, and his job is to get rid of the eunuchs, but keep the emperor in power. He then he shows up, basically in the process of killing all the eunuchs, sets fire to the city and almost razes it to the ground. So he's already not very popular, but he's very brutal. He takes the regency, which he wasn't supposed to do. And he's sitting with this prince and his younger brother. The prince is doing whatever he wants, and he's trying to formulate a plot to take over the country. This is assisted by his number one soldier, Lu Bu. Shout out to Lu Bu.
I was about to ask you if I could take another sip.
Every time we get a big character in the show. Lu Bu, his whole story is very funny. His Wikipedia page might be one of the longest pages on Wikipedia. He probably betrays various people, maybe 20, 25 betrayals during the whole series. This is him. He is the number one betrayer. He's also the strongest warrior. Guess what happens? Well, first, the warlord, the Zhou warlord, he decides that he doesn't like the older brother. He has the older brother killed and kidnaps the younger brother and declares himself regent again. Not exactly sure why this happens, but this really, really pisses off people. Lu Bu seizes his opportunity and gets recruited by another powerful family to kill this warlord. He stabs him in the back with a big spear, cha. They take this warlord, they put him on a pike outside the capital, and they set fire to his body. And this is widely reported, so it must be true. It must have actually happened. He is so fat that his body burns for 3 days. There is a big period of instability. The entire country is disunited. The most powerful family is led by a guy called Cao Cao. Which is Cao Cao. I like Cao Cao.
I'm going to take 2 sips because funny name.
Yeah, we'll take
fuck.
2 sips for fuck. Right, I'm going to simplify the whole Three Kingdoms.
Wait, this is not Three Kingdoms yet, right?
We're about to start. Cao Cao forms the first kingdom. He forms the Wei Kingdom. The Wei Kingdom is basically everything above the Yangtze River. It's very important that during this time, the Yangtze River is a massive focal point. If you kind of control both banks of the Yangtze River, you can, there's a river in Volgograd, near Stalingrad. Famously, when the Nazis and the Soviets were fighting over Stalingrad, they both wanted to control both sides of that river because that would basically guarantee them control of Russia. The Yangtze River forms much the same thing because it's such a wide river. You need to control both sides of it to control China. Cao Cao stabilizes the north of China first. He forms the Wei Kingdom. In the southeast, the Wu Kingdom forms, and in the southwest, the Shu/Han Kingdom forms. The Shu/Han Kingdom is the protagonist kingdom in all the famous accounts because most of the historiography is completed at the start of the Ming Dynasty by a Ming Dynasty scholar who writes the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, and he is a big fan of the Shu/Han Dynasty. So this takes the form of him saying that the Shu/Han is the rightful heir of the mandate of heaven. So there are 3 kingdoms that all claim the mandate of heaven. There's Cao Cao in the north. There is a guy called Liu Bei in the southwest. And then there's another kingdom in the southeast that isn't particularly important. this is the romance of the Three Kingdoms. These three kingdoms fight for about 40 years, and all of the battles are very well documented. Not that I've read about any of them. Liu Bei, Lu Bu. Lu Bu is eventually betrayed, and he does this thing a lot of the time where he will take the regency of a kingdom when the ruler of that kingdom goes out to fight some famous battle against the ruler of some other kingdom so that they can gain some kind of prestige. And then as soon as the army is out of the city, Lu Bu declares himself emperor. He does this like twice to do different people. And at one point, his army is defeated by an alliance between Liu Bei's army of the Shu Han and another army. And the other army is led by an antagonist in the Three Kingdoms story. So the story goes... that this ruler, whose name is one of the Sao guys, I'm pretty sure, is like immediately like, right, Lu Bu has betrayed all of us at least 3 times. Now is the time we're just gonna fucking chop his head off. We're gonna get rid of Lu Bu.
Guys, didn't you have an off by now?
yeah. Like, and then the other guy, one of Liu Bei's friends, which we're gonna talk about again in a second. He says, like, hold on, like, we're the good guys. We shouldn't just kill people because, like, what if he swears allegiance to one of us? You know, then we shouldn't kill him. And basically, the other guy just, like, looks at him and is like, are you serious? and then
hey, you're no better than them, you know?
yeah. So he regrettably agrees to kill Lu Bu because he's a good guy, so he can't execute him in cold blood. And that's the end of Lu Bu. Sometime near the end. The main story in the romance of the Three Kingdoms kind of revolves around these 3 heroes. So this is Liu Bei, the one who has the claim. He's descended from the Han, so he kind of claims the Han crown. And his 2 friends, one of which is called Guan Yu, and the other one is less important. In the TV show, Guan Yu's got this big beard and a big smile, and they always laugh and hold hands and go, ha, 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 ha.
Yeah.
The famous scene is in the first episode. They swear the oath of the peach tree in the garden. This is when the 3 protagonists meet, and they're doing that meme where there's like the black guy, the white guy, and the fist bumping, and their biceps are and they're like, we're the 3 good guys. They say we may not be born on the same day, the same year, the same month, but we hope to die on the same year, the same day, the same month.
And they're gonna kill each other afterwards.
And like famously, this is like a pledge that they don't kill each other. I think they betray each other at various points, but I think the romance of the Three Kingdoms ends roughly before the actual end of the Three Kingdoms period, when they're all buddy.
Is it homoerotic?
Yeah,
I'm asking.
It's very, very homoerotic. The first episode, so they're all puffing their chest out and they're all going, ha, 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 and they're like lifting big logs and big rocks and stuff. And they go around
is
like...
Is that a metaphor for something? Or is it...
They could have fucked. I don't know. We're not talking about sexuality in ancient China, but I guess it's relatively progressive.
Yeah, but guys, eunuchs did more than just taking care of the harem. I'm just gonna say
I mean, my analysis of the Three
Can I, by the way?
Huh?
Can I?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I mean, long time.
Well, so I wanted to talk about the Sima family. Hold on, one more. Sima family. They're my guys. The romance of the Three Kingdoms ends because one of the heirs of Cao, one of the Cao family, ends up just taking over he's from the Wei Kingdom. He takes over the Wu Kingdom first, and then the end of the Shu Han Kingdom is the end of the Three Kingdoms period. Now, I mean, why has this period inspired so much interest? Why do people talk about it in modern China so much? I think because, I mean, we're in China, right? And China has a storied history in the 20th century of, historical revisionism or reviving or like burying different historical stories. But the Three Kingdoms is when much of Korea is incorporated into the Wei, and like so much of Vietnam is incorporated into the Wu, and a lot of the what we would now consider like the boundaries of China are just fully incorporated into the Three Kingdoms drama. So the Japanese have adapted the Romance of the Three Kingdoms into like maybe like 5 or 6 game series, each of which that has like 3 or 4 installations. You can look up Romance of the Three Kingdoms on Steam, and there's like 16 different strategy games, famously like Total War Three Kingdoms. I think this is because it's an international story more than anything.
Did they make a dating game?
There's lots of dating stuff. There's lots of visual novel stuff. There's loads of TV adaptations. I do recommend the 94 series. Is the Romance of the Three Kingdoms actually as interesting as people say it is? Is it as contentious? I kind of disagree. China splits into 3 semi-stable kingdoms, and the kingdom that wins is the Wei Kingdom, and they're the most technologically advanced. They have the largest economy, and what they do to secure their victory very early on, this happens about 10 years in, is Cao Cao does some kind of innovation, and he establishes this kind of mini duchy system of governance. We would call it, it's like similar to like a French castle or something. It's a very feudal system where along the Yangtze, he split it up into 3 or 4 different counties where they each had a very, very autonomous agriculture and defense system. They each had their own armies, but they were each very loyal, and they were completely food self-sustainable, and they were protected against floods. So at no point really in the Three Kingdoms does any of the other 2 kingdoms invade the Wu by crossing the eastern side of the Yangtze River. Basically, this is completely stable. And in my opinion, if you're ever playing a strategy game, it's like, once you've secured that, you've already won. And then the eventual family that takes over the Wei Kingdom, that's just the general's family. So it's like the most powerful family in the most powerful kingdom from the very beginning is kind of destined to win the Three Kingdoms. There's not really any point at which the tides change, especially when the Wei has already defeated the Wu. It's like if you watch the Premier League, and the team with the most money is always going to win. Or like we like Formula One. Like predicting that Red Bull was going to win the last 2 seasons. Yeah. It's like, you can always big up the drama, but at the end of the day, you know who's going to win. So, yeah, I mean, also one thing that I think keep this story really alive through the preceding dynasties is we talked about the change in state ideology. Just as there's this kind of change in state ideology, there's also a change in the historiography. So in the Ming dynasty, that's when the Shu Han kingdom becomes the protagonists. In the other dynasties, they recognize different characters in the Romance of the Three Kingdoms as the legitimate heirs of the what do you say, the mandate of heaven.
Yeah.
So I mean that's my simplification. The Three Kingdoms, it's over. We don't have to.
I'm still surprised that at some point, like you have been coming from the downfall of the Zhou dynasty began with the Chunqiu period, and then ended up becoming the warring state.
Yeah.
And then Cao Cao says, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna split my kingdom into even smaller.
Exactly.
States.
It's kind of a brave.
Exactly.
But I think the thing is he didn't put monarchs or like really corrupt people in charge. He didn't give them too much power.
But you have to put someone in charge.
But he gives them mostly power over agriculture and assigns them the role of protecting the bank of the Yangtze, right? And if I was in charge, I think the bigger threat to me is the people from the outside. I mean, I was thinking about this today. There's that meme where it's like 12 different people pointing guns at each other in a church, right? When you are, and this is a common theme throughout China, when you are placed in charge of a town or a city that happens to be on the northern boundary, the western boundary, or in this case, it just happens to be the southern boundary of the Yangtze River, your more powerful enemy, the one you are always more scared of, is on the other side of that boundary. You're always worried about raiders, and also all your fortifications are on that side. So if you're in one of these little farming communities and all your garrisons are in the south, you're not going to go up north and try and fight the guy who your 3 neighbors are also loyal to.
Yeah.
I think it's quite smart. And I mean, it's something that European kingdoms realize later is like, if you can build, this is getting really like economic. If you can build autonomous regions that can like be self-sustainable on food, and you have like a strong local military presence just localized to that region, and you can use it to defend against outsiders, but you can also use it to keep down peasant rebellions. I mean, there aren't many rebellions in the Three Kingdoms.
Yeah, exactly. It was clearly the right call because it did work out in the end. I'm just saying, like, after the recent history, well, not so recent by them, but
500 years old.
Yeah, exactly. You can look at it and say, every time we tried this, it didn't work so well.
Yeah.
Should we do it in this moment of crisis? And they go, yeah, sure, why not?
I think
it was bold.
I think the most surprising thing, because it does happen a lot in China, is it will split into 2 or 3 semi-stable kingdoms. I mean, there's like the Western and Eastern, is that the Xia? I can't remember. The Western and Eastern dynasties form like later, and you have these kind of brief periods of time where the kingdom is kind of split along a boundary. So the country, the modern country. But usually those are very quickly disrupted because there's a succession crisis or a natural disaster or just peasant rebellions, right? It's here, there is a solid 60 years where there's 3 kingdoms that are all semi-stable. They all have a very strong family in charge of them. And they all have very powerful generals who somehow managed not to overthrow the emperor, right up until the end.
That's the important thing, yeah.
I mean, if you are, here's our tip: if you are the general in a power struggle and it just looks like your side is winning, wait until your side wins and then initiate your coup.
Yeah, exactly. Don't rush things, especially on these situations.
Yeah. We said that the compass is invented. I think this could be fake. I mean, the compass that's invented is I've done a lot of reading about it. It's called one of the 4 great inventions of China. It is a differential transmission. Literally, is what it is. Nowadays, in a car, in the back of a cart, and where the differential will drive a gear, and that gear will keep track of the total change in direction over the course, and then apply it to it's usually like a goose or a bird or something facing in some direction on top of the cart, and it's supposed to point south the whole time. It's not ideal really, because as soon as your wheels are slightly different sizes or you start hitting a bumpy road, it kind of stops working very quickly. So what historians theorize is that this was used to keep track between towns, and then basically at every single town they would have to reconfigure it to point south based on some local measurements.
I mean, it makes sense, but yeah, even if it was like a very early version of the thing. I'm not
denigrating it. It's very clever.
Yeah, but I mean, when throughout history, when you say the first invention of whatever, 99% of the times you're talking to a very early version that doesn't have much to do with the use that you give to the same thing nowadays.
Yeah.
Because it was very rudimentary, very early. They didn't know exactly what to use it for most of the times.
I mean, it doesn't use magnets, but it's a very, very complex mechanism. I mean, it's a really stupid joke that only me and you are going to get, but it's not the ancient compass, it's the ancient inertial measurement unit.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when you say it like that, it makes sense, yeah. You're trying to standardize things, and it makes sense when you try to unify such a diverse and broad territory. You need to find some way to keep some standards. Yeah. Even something as simple that we take as granted today as what is north, what is south.
Yeah.
You have to take into account you are dealing with mostly uneducated masses.
But also a compass isn't that accurate.
No, it's
the deviation of the magnetic field is quite large. That technically this system is more reliable along short distances.
Yeah. I mean, but you're not looking at it for something that needs to be overly accurate. You just need to have more or less a general idea.
Yeah.
To just, as you said, you just need to set some standards that everyone will understand and everyone will agree to follow.
Yeah.
Just to keep some basic stuff in order.
Yeah.
When you look back, we take most of these things nowadays for granted, because we already have a foundation on every of these fields.
Well, we know what magnets are.
Exactly, but back then you don't have trigonometry, or you don't have.
You do have trigonometry.
You did have trigonometry by then, but you don't have, for example, any other measure any other measurements or any techniques that we deal now.
We're not doing an
nowadays.
episode of cartography.
Yes,
unfortunately.
we need to do it. And you drank without me.
Yeah, of course I did. Are you ready to move on?
I'm ready to move on to the Sui dynasty.
Yeah, because I want to skip straight to the Ming dynasty and emperor.
I'm not gonna let you, because then the Sui dynasty comes very short-lived.
If you talk too much, I'm gonna finish my beer. Well, you forgot about the Qin dynasty, the Sima family.
Okay, I'll make it quick, guys.
This is even quicker. The Sima family inherits the Qin kingdom because one of them was born in a place called Qin 100 years before.
Makes
they
sense.
become the Qin dynasty. Qin dynasty doesn't last very long.
The Sui dynasty doesn't last very long either.
Yeah.
Until 618. And they only have like a few kings, but what they do manage to do is that they unify the law and they reduce the corruption by making the obtention of titles or positions in the government more meritocratic based as it was before during the Qin dynasty, the early Qin dynasty, instead of relying mostly on connections and families. And what they do essentially is just paving the way for the Tang dynasty, which will be one of the most brilliant in many aspects of the whole Chinese history. Apart from that, is it at this time when we find the legend of Mulan, and also when the whole territories of China keep expanding into Korea and other territories, because we usually forget about this, but if you look at the map of the Zhou dynasty or the Qin dynasty, the territory is not very big compared to what we know as of today as China. So we have to remember, even during the Three Kingdoms, even during all of these dynasties, they just keep expanding and fighting also against nomadic tribes that try to conquer their territories.
Oh, just raiders.
Raiders, yeah. So sometimes they lose territory, sometimes they win them over. So the territory is in constant change, even if they're already busy with their own inner fights and things like that. So then that is when it comes to the Tang dynasty that lasts from 618 to 907. And this is a brilliant moment for arts and culture, especially.
Yawn.
Huh? I'm on it. In this period, we have mostly two brilliant emperors that are like very well known by most Chinese nowadays. Now you're leaving because this is not your thing.
I'm checking it's still recording. I wasn't checking the time. Holy shit.
Hey, we are doing fine. So the first one of these emperors is Taizong. Taizong, he's renowned for unifying the whole military organization and taking some measures to improve the whole education of the masses. And also,
we love education of the masses.
Who doesn't? I mean, and he also focuses on improving the religious freedom. As I said many times already, every state has their own ideology, but in the Qin dynasty, this means that no other ideology is allowed to be professed in public.
I like it when you say, as I've said many times already.
So I've said many times, but
You're so ready to be a lecturer.
It's a very important point of the whole thing. Okay, back on track.
You sound like my aerodynamics professor.
He must be a really lovely and...
No, very nasally. He says, as I said many times already.
Lovely, interesting, and extremely attractive guy. I'm sure of it. So, Qin dynasty... If you follow Confucianism, you're dead. If you read Confucianism books, you're dead.
Based.
Yeah. Essentially, yeah, I can agree on that. So,
this is a feminist podcast, so we don't stand Confucianism.
Who doesn't love our woman? So, Taizong, what he does is that he takes measures to make the freedom of cult really a reality throughout the whole China. And this is when foreign religions like Christianism and Buddhism, because don't forget Buddhism comes from India, even if it's still very developed in China, they arrive to China and they have.
How do they arrive to China?
Well, in the case of Buddhism, they come from India.
How do they get from India? There's one thing the Silk Road. We haven't mentioned the Silk Road.
Well, I'm gonna go through it.
Okay.
I'm gonna go through it by the way that Buddhism comes to China is still like, through the Silk Road, but also the tradition that arrives to China develops really quickly on their own way, on their own sects and their own traditions. So it's also a more particular aspect. So both of them, especially Christianism, has a very limited effect still is professed nowadays, still in some regions of China, mostly in the south. But Buddhism, as we are going to see, has a much bigger importance later on. And one of the most important things of Emperor Taizong is that his favorite concubine, Wu Zetian will be the name that she adopts later when she becomes the first and the only empress of China. But this concubine was...
Do they say empress or do they say female emperor?
They say empress. She named herself empress.
But I thought they would say female emperor. I thought that because the Huangdi thing. I don't know, this is a translation thing, but like it's not supposed to be gender neutral, right? Like it's kind of like implied that Huangdi is a man.
Yeah.
So there's no such thing as an empress as opposed to an emperor.
I think the name is Huang Ho. Huang Ho.
Can't call him that.
Without you.
Okay.
So yeah, the thing is that she was his favorite concubine. He dies, and when the law by then was that when an emperor dies, all his concubines are shaved their head and they are sent to a monastery to just live a life of reclusion.
At the time, that was the law.
It was the law until then, but
it's changed. People used to be buried with their concubines.
It changed, yeah. I mean, but I don't think we have concubines anymore. So
You're right. I didn't think about that.
I think, as far as I know. So, but Wu Zetian, by then, she also had an affair with Taichung's son, which was Li Chu. And when Li Chu saw the destiny that was awaiting for her, he took her out of the monastery and made her also his favorite concubine. Of course, this didn't sit well with Li Chu's wife, and Wu Zetian has also bigger plans for herself. So, seeing that his wife was not really happy with the situation, and being her still in love with Li Chu, she killed his daughter, his infant daughter, and framed Li Chu's wife for the murder. This allowed her to, in the end, end up proclaiming herself the empress or female emperor of China. Yeah. Again, first and only. And she was known for being brutal in every single way. She's still a very divisive figure, if you want. I mean, in some people are gonna tell you that it's a show of female power. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, you're gonna say, yeah, she killed a lot of people. Maybe that's not the kind of power you want to have. Just asking. But the thing is, she also took many reforms and really many advances that had a big impact in the following times. He was a big fan of Buddhism, which then was also reverted to Taoism in the following years, because it was seen that Buddhism was not maybe as spiritual, according to some people, I don't know why, as Taoism. And in the following years, Taoism was made one of the most prominent cults, followed by the state. That is what the Emperor Xuanzong did. One of the last emperors of the Tang Dynasty, Xuanzong, made the Taoism the official religion, and he made every household to have Daojing, which is the main book of Taoism right now. After that comes the Song Dynasty from 1960 to 1279, which again comes with a renewal of Buddhism. Xuanzong made the Taoism official, and now people are liking Buddhism more. God knows why.
It's also the Crusader Kings 3 DLC dynasty.
I haven't played it, but I will trust you with that information. And again, another brilliant dynasty for the arts. We have, for example, the development of the Fujian black pottery, the whole Chinese porcelain, and a very funny episode is that in 1127, the Huchen, which are some of the Mongolian tribes,
Jurchen.
Huh?
Jurchen, the Jurchen, Jurchen.
Sorry for my mispronunciation.
No, it's okay. I just want to make sure.
I don't know Mongolian.
I'm sure I'm saying it wrong too. I'm just going to make sure everyone understands.
Guchen.
But this is Jurchen.
No, it doesn't have an A.
Jur.
We'll trust this guy.
Jur.
Okay, the Mongolians.
Classic Mongolians.
Classic. I mean, who hasn't heard about them? They take over the capital of the Song dynasty in 1127, which was by then Kaifeng, still a city in today's Henan province. And they abduct the emperor.
Yes.
The battle that ensued, one of the first battles in which gunpowder was used in a great scale, but still it had not a good result for the Song dynasty because the emperor was still kept under the control of his abductors, the
Genghis Khan.
Okay, I'll take it.
I got with Genghis Khan.
And he serves as a common servant for the rest of his life, which marks the beginning of the decline of the Song dynasty. And this gives the beginning to the Yuan dynasty in 1271 to 1368, which is exactly the Mongol rule. The Mongolians just take over the whole China, and they begin a completely different social organization of the whole country. Suddenly, the Mongolians are seen like something similar to what you could have in India with the caste system. The Mongolians are the highest caste. They can hold most of the power. They are seen with better eyes, not only in a social aspect, but also when it comes to, for example, taxes. They are taxed much more lightly. And then we go all the way down to the southern Chinese. The Han Chinese are seen with better eyes than the southern counterparts. So yeah, of course, this doesn't sit well with many. With any of the Chinese.
The introduction of a racial hierarchy to China does kind of continue until now, to be honest. Not a caste system, but the recognition of different races of people as different strata. I mean, it's in the Qing dynasty, for example.
Yeah, it's in the Qing dynasty.
You're like formalizing that there are different groups of people, and if you belong to one, you can't really change.
Yeah, but what they say is like, yeah, we're gonna tax you differently. You are gonna have different rights based on your process. Of course, you don't have that anymore. But when the Qing dynasty came back, that is one of the things that also brought back again the Manchu people had again more power, and they were seen they could occupy the highest positions of power inside society. And then you were saying before about the Yellow Turban movement.
Big up, shout out.
Big up. Now in the Yuan dynasty, we have the Red Turban movement.
Okay.
Which again was begun by a peasant.
Yeah.
And again, he aimed to overthrow the Mongol rule. He began having some small conquests on the south of China, which ended up growing to a much bigger movement. And in the end, he managed to overthrow the whole Yuan dynasty.
Yeah.
His name was Chu Yuanzhang, who was born in 1328 and died in 1398. And the thing is, like, at the beginning, his objective was to return to the Song dynasty because it was in like an age of really flourishing for the whole China. But then he was like, hey, you know what? I have my own ideas too. I want to also return to the Confucianist values and make my own plan for 10, which is what ended up happening in the end, leading to the
Ming. The Ming. You know, I keep mentioning video games. You know what they call the Ming dynasty in Europa Universalis 4?
No.
They call it the Ming explosion. Because very quickly, if you play as the Ming, you end up with all these like economic problems and stuff. The Ming dynasty, we've not got much time left. The Ming dynasty is an interesting one. The Ming dynasty has kind of started when Yongle, Zhu Di Yongle, he is the nephew of the emperor. He does a little coup on the emperor and takes over. Yongle is special. Yongle is widely regarded as the best emperor, I think, at least by my students and all the people I talk to. He's so special, he made it into Civilization 6 alongside Wu Zetian, who is a diversity hire, and Qin Shihuang, who killed everyone.
It's not diversity hire, you don't have anyone else to hire for that position.
The first thing Yongle does is basically burn Nanjing to the ground. No longer the capital. The capital is now in Beijing. We're building the Ming tombs. giant tombs for all of the ancestors who are exhumed and pushed in there. And we're building tombs for the future. Forward-thinking guy. We're building the Forbidden City, the most complex, traditional, and advanced palace in China to date, still around today. Most of this is around 1405, 1406. It is immediately after he takes power that he is just completely reforming everything. He finishes the Great Wall of China. After Yongle is completed from Shanghai Guan all the way into the west of China, he is like the constructor. He is building everything. What's special about Yongle is economic reforms. I mean, previously you paid tax in whatever you could. So people were showing up and paying their taxes in grain. Not convenient. He changes the whole system to silver. Silver is not very abundant in China, but it's being used kind of as a currency at this point. This starts off a series of economic problems which actually kind of work in his favor. So there's a lot of power in the eunuchs as well, which is famously like not what you want. You never want power to be concentrated by the eunuchs.
You don't want to give power to some people whose balls and dick you cut too. I mean, that probably they have some grudge against you.
So the silver thing, I just want to talk about silver. I fucking love the whole silver shenanigans. It is very informative. Silver between the Ming and the following Qing dynasty basically dominates the economic discussion, and we love economics. So he transforms the tax system into silver, and he's paying for all of the construction in silver. There's loads of silver being spent, but there's not much silver in circulation, which becomes a problem. People start using paper money, and then the supply of silver is shrinking even more, because silver is actually being taken out of the country now that it's becoming more popular. It's being used by the neighbors. There's a massive shortage of silver, and what he does is so clever. This is one of the cleverest, the most clever things one of the Chinese emperors has ever done. He builds a shit ton of silver mines in the north of China and in the central belt of China. And he entrusts these silver mines to the powerful families and the eunuchs. And these people go, oh my God, the silver mine. I have so much power. I basically have power over the Chinese economy. Except silver mining is very difficult. Silver is not easy to find. And a lot of these mines, we're not experts in prospecting. They don't know where the silver is. He's charging these people flat rates of silver every year as tribute for giving them these silver mines that aren't producing the amount of silver that he needs. So it's effectively wealth distribution. He is extracting, by entrusting these silver mines to these wealthy people, he extracts almost all of the wealth of the upper class of the country into his coffers, which he uses for more construction. Then he introduces paper currency, which goes through hyperinflation because there's so much paper currency being produced and people are so desperate to stop using silver. It becomes counterfeited, and this leads to instability. Yongle is replaced by a series of relatively... actually, I nearly forgot something. There's a guy called Zheng He, a eunuch, which I guess, I don't know, maybe he's a powerful eunuch, maybe Yongle doesn't like him. He sends him on a worldwide exhibition. Zheng He's expeditions, they take these Chinese ships south through the straits, across the subcontinent, all the way to Arabia, and they come back with countless treasures. And this is a massive status symbol for him. He's recognized as an international collaborator. This is where international collaboration comes in. At this point, the Portuguese are occupying and trading with the Japanese. The Portuguese are banned from trading with China by the Spanish. The Spanish recognize China as their like little Japan, except the Portuguese traders are now coming in. They go to Japan and they buy silks and fabrics with the silver, and then they take these Japanese silks and fabrics into China. So you're getting the beginning of some massive wealth extraction out of the country by colonial powers. Yongle doesn't do this, but later in the Ming Dynasty, the Portuguese are allowed access to Macau, and then various other countries come into contact. I mean, the British aren't quite the seafaring power during the Ming Dynasty that they will later be. The rest of the Ming Dynasty is a series of like fucking around with silver and currency. And we're getting into the really nitty-gritty stuff. I don't want to talk too much, but this is the introduction of foreign powers to China, which initially is very much embraced. But then the series of things goes wrong. Missionaries at this point start coming to China, and missionaries, they don't behave very well.
like they do anywhere.
Like they do anywhere. They're behaving very, very poorly, which is going to cause problems for them later. Is there anything else about the Ming you want to say? Because we're basically...
About the Ming, just the fun story about the time that the Spanish emperor, I think it was Carlos I, he planned invading China.
Oh yes, the Spanish invasion to get around behind the Ottomans.
Yeah, he had the whole plan to go from enter through the east coast, and just invade the whole China, which he didn't try in the end, obviously.
Yeah,
because I think everyone realized that it was a fucking stupid idea.
It doesn't. To be fair, I was really surprised about how much, because basically a lot of the silver at this point coming into the country is coming from the South America. So silver is being mined in South America and it's being transported to China. And this is all being controlled by the Spanish and the Portuguese. So if they're transporting that many goods, why wouldn't you think about transporting troops? I mean, the problem is when you get to land, you then have to march across.
Not only that, but because in Spain, back then, he was already busy with his own wars in Europe against the Protestants and all this shit.
Yeah.
They were wasting every single ounce of gold that came into the country, into these wars. So even if they didn't have these situations, probably they could have tried to invade China and maybe they had a chance to be successful with the invasion, but not in those situations.
So at the end of the Ming Dynasty, the Jurchens reorganize. There's a new kind of empire up there, the Manchurians. The Manchu people is this new kind of ethnic strata that's introduced. They very quickly gain a lot of power. Not exactly sure why, but that's how history works. And then there is a very bad harvest season. There's a flood, there's a plague, etc., etc. The Ming Dynasty kind of collapses. There is immediately another dynasty which maybe lasts about 3 years because one soldier in the fortress of Shanhaiguan, which is near the Bohai Sea, it's very far north China. It's the start of the Great War of China. He lets the 8 banner army, so these are the 8 armies of the Manchurians, through, and they very quickly take over Beijing. And at this point, there are various other kingdoms that try to be established in other cities, but I think after Yongle, it's kind of established that Beijing is the capital of China. And once you've captured that, you very quickly take over the rest of the country, which is the end of the Ming and the handover to the Qing.
I mean, the most common consensus that I have seen about this topic is that because of the many economical problems and the social problems that the Ming Dynasty was facing at the end of the reign, the morale of the whole army was
exactly what
beneath the ground. You know, so even if there was no army to fight against, they didn't want to fight.
Yeah, economic powers. The silver. So it all comes back to the fucking silver.
So that's why I say, because in that given situation, if any Spain or any other big empire at the time, like the Portuguese, had tried to invade China, if they had a well-thought plan, they would have maybe had a chance to win because of the low morale of the army and the many other plans that China was having at the time.
It's difficult, right? Because
it's a very complex situation.
Even if you have the best army, the best navy in the world, you can't invade China. You can't occupy it.
You cannot occupy it, exactly. You have to keep it.
You have to humiliate it. That's what we're going to talk about now. So the Qing dynasty comes in at a very bad time for globalization. The Qing dynasty has its own history. I mean, it goes on from 1600 until 1911. It's the longest reigning dynasty. But the difficulty with talking about the Qing dynasty is it's basically dominated by its interactions with foreign powers and internal...
Which are horrible.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a very, very bad time to be Chinese between 1600 and 19... Tell you what, even after 1911, it's a bad time to be Chinese.
It's a bad time until 1949.
Yeah, I would say that's a good date. Good choice. You're very good. You'll be. So the Qing dynasty, there's just so many topics. It's kind of hard to cover. People love talking about the Taiping Rebellion. It doesn't even register. The Taiping Rebellion is a religious revolt that kills 2 million people, and it barely registers in the scale of disasters that happen to the Qing dynasty.
Not even close.
Yeah, if you want to read a very pro-British book on this period, you can read The Lion and the Dragon. But even in that book, it's like written by a like conservative British man who's very like proud of England. It is shameful how European powers treat China. The 2 Opium Wars are probably the most devastating foreign interventions in China. The first Opium War is started not even really over opium, more about market access and the ability of foreigners to supersede Chinese law and their protection by Qing troops. The second Opium War is started when the sociological impacts of opium have really begun to take root, and opium is made illegal. And the trade of opium is kind of because China is demanding so much silver from European powers. Again, silver fucking comes back. And yeah, they're trying to sell silver and they're trying to buy opium. And everyone's trying to sell stuff to China, but China doesn't want anything apart from opium. The Chinese consumption of opium is so high, even after it's made illegal.
It cannot be overstated, like how demolishing it is for the society. Like hundreds of pictures of it, like opium dens.
Yeah.
Like,
well, it infects the West. I mean,
exactly.
It's a worldwide drug epidemic. It just happens.
But it had especially hard in China because the European powers were profiting from it.
Exactly.
It was a huge market, so they wanted to not only.
And I won't say it wasn't controversial in England, because famously, like, the Christian majority of the English Parliament were very, very vocal about opposing the Opium War. It just happened to be so profitable, and Parliament at the time was even more corrupt than it is now, if you can believe that. So there was no way of stopping it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, but
the Second Opium War is started when a boat full of opium is sunk in one of the various foreign concessions by the Chinese, because they won't agree to let it onto land. This leads to gunboats blowing up people. I mean, there's loads of British accounts of just, hundreds of thousands being gunned down by British. It's like, it's not a war. It's not an opium war. It's closer to like a genocide, really. Yeah, it's just a complete massacre. I mean, it's. There's nothing like warlike about it. So instability follows that, because why wouldn't it? And you get the Boxer Rebellion. I mean, there's various things about the Boxer Rebellion that are kind of charming. It's called the reason it's called the Boxer Rebellion is so patronizing. I mean, you're talking about these people, right? Like, they're not primitive. They are aware that guns are more powerful than them. So they're using guns. The people in the Boxer Rebellion used guns to fight the foreign powers. But the Boxer Rebellion was suppressed by the Qing Empress Dowager Cixi collaborating with foreign powers. Famously, the foreign concession in Beijing, not the concession, the district with all the embassies in, it was under siege by both the Qing dynasty and the Gansu Braves, who are a Muslim boxer force who were actually camped out in the Temple of Heaven. And the Gansu Braves were asking the Qing dynasty for artillery to just wipe out all the foreigners in the foreign quarter. And the Qing dynasty was saying, no, it's okay, we'll keep the artillery. And they were setting off fireworks, because at the same time as they were pretending to run a siege on the foreign quarter, they were trying to keep them alive, and they were trying to stop the Gansu Braves from slaughtering all of them.
Which is one of the reasons why, in the end, Qing dynasty is like seen as a completely despicable even for Chinese people. Like,
I think there's 3 reasons it's despicable. One, the lack of technological progress. The British historian, what's his fucking name? The Nielsen? Something, I'm gonna have to put it in the notes, but there's a British historian who wrote 20 volumes for his whole life, about how the Qing dynasty basically didn't keep up with scientific progress. And it seems like a core culture thing because, I mean, there's another story about the British building a demonstration railway in Beijing. And the Empress Dowager took one look at it and said, no, we're not building any railways in China. The other thing is the wholesale, just theft of artifacts by colonial powers from China.
Which they allowed. That is the thing.
They were selling them, yeah.
To be humiliated in a military aspect is one thing.
Yeah.
But if you put at least a fight, that is like, okay, you try your best. You couldn't compete against the USA, Britain, France. You cannot compete against all these powers at the state in which China was at the moment.
Yeah.
But like profiting from it and betraying your own country.
They were sold out by their leaders.
We are talking before in the last episode about how this primitive idea of the social contract is one of the aspects that is most embedded into Confucianism. And we are talking about how Confucianism is still embedded into the society of China even until today in a very subtle but really, really strong way.
Yeah.
And of course, like when you have the own state violently violating this social contract, of course, no one is going to look fond of you, no matter what you do.
Yeah. So this leads in the end to one final foreign invasion. Is it the Seven Nation Army that invades at the end of 1910, 1911, and they basically force the Dowager to resign and try to put a puppet in the place, and then this goes horribly wrong and backfires, and they end up trying to enforce the liberalization, the democratization of China, which then leads on to 1911, which is our topic for next episode, 1911 until now.
Which is going to be a lot to talk about too.
No, it's fine, because we can't talk about too much.
Man, from 1911 to 1949.
Well, it gets worse before it gets better.
But when Lenin said there are decades in which not a week happens, and there are weeks in which a decade happens.
Yeah.
Okay, so from 1911 to 1949, I think every week
something crazy happens. Yeah. But we can only talk about so much. So what else is there to talk about? There's the Zhenhuan. You should go see Zhenhuan, Legend of Zhenhuan, Empresses in the Palace, fully dubbed on YouTube. Highly recommend. You should try and read some books on the topic if you are interested. But we're really leading up to modern China and where we are today.
I was gonna say, like, if you are in Beijing or you want to visit Beijing and you want to like a living proof of this period, the humiliation of the Qin dynasty by the imperial forces, you can look up the summer palace. There are two summer palaces in Beijing. Actually, there is one that is like a Chinese style palace with really big in the middle of the nature with a surrounding a lake and everything like that. And there is another one that was built during the Ming dynasty to imitate the Qing dynasty, sorry. Yeah. To imitate Versailles in Paris. It was a palace made in the same style, resembling Versailles almost in a 1-to-1 scale. Yeah. And it was completely demolished by the British and the French forces when they arrived to Beijing, which they invaded Beijing really quickly because, again, there was no opposition by the army because the morale was on the ground. Yeah. And you can see how now there is just a few stones on top of each other, and that's all. There is nothing else to see.
It's rubble.
Yeah. You can see like some pictures and some 3D reconstructions that they have made on the site, but there is nothing, any actual room to see even. Yeah. So that is one of the most painful testaments.
It's very sobering.
Yeah.
It's just like an entire culture wiped out.
Yeah, for Chinese people, it's one of the examples that they can set as, this is what happened.
But there's a comeback story coming. It's not all bad.
Yeah, it's not all bad.
All right, well, how do we wrap this one up?
I think it's time to wrap it up. Next one is also going to be a good one.
But how do we wrap it up, though? What song do you want?
Can we do a ganbei and just wrap it up?
Okay, ganbei.
Ganbei.